Yu-Gi-Oh! Mint.com is now TradingCardMint.com. Please check out their selection of over 20,000 cards with prices cheaper than TCG Player.
Alright, we're going to do a slightly probably already done Kagero deck profile. Just kind of wanted to give my opinions on a couple of things that I'm kind of been testing a little bit based off of some OCG concepts and whatnot. So guys, please check out our friends at TradingCardMint.com. Down below in the description, you guys might know Yu-Gi-Oh! Mint. They recently went through a name change earlier in the year, sifting over to greater, brighter things. So, of course, TradingCardMint.com. Enter MCOL40, save you guys just a little bit on your order. And I think that would be really, really cool if you did that. So, Kagero is, of course, of the Force clan. Best Force markers to exist for this clan. But I will say this. When you start to play this deck and you kind of start to realize what you have to do with Kagero, the deck is very straightforward. You guys remember when I was absolutely horrible with this deck, with the Berserkers, and yeah, it was just a really bad time. But the best way to play this deck, it seems, is just kind of start shoving the Force markers on your Vanguard and just start going to town. Literally, watching this thing swing in for 50... 63, 61, whatever the numbers might be. I mean, they start to get big. But when you're hitting that barrier, OTT can't usually use half of their hand. So what are you going to do? You know, when it's this format is literally just break red format all over again. 3 red, grade 3, re-red, grade 3. It might be one of the reasons why I'm a little bit indifferent standard, but I miss the G-Zone so much. But anyway, for Dragonic Waterfall, there's nothing to really say about this, to be perfectly honest with you. Sentinel Denial is a big pain in the ass, and the fact that this guy actually gains the crit, like, what the fuck were they thinking? Soul Blasting a grade 3 is very costly. Don't get me wrong, there's some really weird scenarios. Actually, the whole soul mechanic of Kagero is kind of hard to maintain at times, because you're trying to kill your opponent, but you literally just start loading up your force markers on your Vanguard as soon as you see a waterfall, and you just start going to town. You know, it's kind of the same concept with Dimensional Police. Just start slamming and slamming and slamming. You know, crazy concepts. So, obviously, probably the best bots monster that Kagero has available to them. And when I originally saw this, I was kind of like, eh. But Sentinel Denial, yeah. That's the real reason why it's good. And then 4 copies of Dragonic Overlord. Don't be like me and drive check a crit and then not restand him. Always restand your Overlord if you've got that many crits. Get the extra power out of your opponent's hand and force that one drive check. This card doesn't seem that great. I mean, restanding it's good. You can kind of tell that he was a little bit of a test for future things to come. But for the most part, I think this card's a little bit booty. This card's good, though. But Dragonic Overlord, 13k restander. Typically, you want this to be your first ride as you continuously slam force markers on the table. But for the most part, this card is a little bit lackluster to me. 4 copies of Berserker Dragon. So hear me out here. Sometimes I think riding this card, getting the additional resource is good, but sometimes for the late game, that soul that you spend on him can kind of be costly. I've ran into a couple of later games where shorting yourself of soul or not maintaining the appropriate soul can actually lead to your death. So, interesting fun fact there, that soul management is actually something to pay attention to. I'm not going to say every game, but if you're starting to kind of see how your hand is shaping up, manage that soul. It is very, very crucial to do that, because if you don't, you're just going to run into so many problems in the late game that it's not even going to be funny. 4 copies of Nahum. The fact that this becomes a 15k attacker and can snipe out a booster for 1 counterblast is actually really good. But queued up with some of your other support, it's not bad. Now, a lot of Kagero builds do focus on the little spear guy that gains power when something's retired. I don't particularly like that build. I think as the format evolves, you kind of Gotta start getting into the weirder card choices and things like that. Nahalim's definitely something that you need to max out on for his capabilities. Now this is something that when I first saw the OCG started playing one or two of these, I was like, what's going on over here? Well, the more I've started to play the additional 10k shields on these grade 2s, oh my god, they're so good. The fact that I can call this out on the early game, force my opponent to kind of be distracted because this guy's an extra 10k shield over in the corner. A lot of people take the bait and start going after this. They don't want you to have that additional shield value because it's very threatening. That's definitely something that a lot of people need to understand. That extra shield value is why you're playing these. Honestly, there are better grade 2s. You can do some other cool stuff. But I found myself, having played this deck for as long as I have now, these the value you get from just the extra 10k shield in hand, especially in the early game, is actually insane. Like, I'm actually shocked at how good these have become. And then I'm playing 2 copies of this one. So, continuous, if your Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, this is a continuous 13k. Now, you're probably asking yourself, well, why does that matter? One, your opponent won't be able to signal this out to attack it if they're just going with a single attacker, which is really good because that 13k threshold actually pretty good. And number 2, unlike the other one that can go up and be a higher attacker by retiring something, I've found that not every single turn you're going to find yourself having retirement. I think the consistency that this grants to you is a little bit more important than the random shot, essentially. So I will say that I like what this card does for the consistency that it does, just for such an easy restriction. So there's that. Those are the grade 2s. Grade 1s, 4 copies of this. So I also thought this card was kind of booty when I started playing. But once again, when you're getting into these pressure turns, this is an 8k booster by itself. You don't always have to shove it into the soul. Also, for a counterblast, you can tuck it into the soul, give somebody an extra critical. That extra critical can come in mass handy when you want to close games. A lot of game closing is going to be because of this card. There are also going to be times where you're swinging with a waterfall at 50, 60,000 that you will want to give it the crit, or the other times you'll just want the extra 8k on the swing to force over additional numbers. It's all about number management, and God, I can't math sometimes. Trust me. You guys have probably seen the playtesting. But clearing over those thresholds becomes key. 4 copies of Airmo. Countercharging is good. Sometimes I do want this to remain a booster, though. This card does have multi-purpose applications going for it. The bigger the booster, the bigger off you're going to be. So that's something to keep in mind. Sometimes you do want to go for the draw, but you need to... This is another card that requires heavy management in the deck. If this went in the soul, I'd feel a little bit better about my life, but it doesn't. It retires, so I mean, we can't get everything we want, but huge booster, or draw power, or 10k shield in hand. Like, you have a lot of decisions you have to make when you're looking at this card. I actually didn't think about my applications when I first started playing this, but this card has a lot more going for it than it looks. And 4 copies of Bar. The thing I like to do with this is make this guy a column. The fact that he gains 5k, so he can just come out the front row and be a 13k attacker. You can keep something else in your hand, and he gets free destruction on something. Hello, free value. Like, it doesn't get much better than this in terms of just generalized resources. So, keep that in mind. Now, trigger ratios. We're playing 4 heals. No reason why you shouldn't be playing 4 of these. And I'm actually on some weird shit right now. We're on 6 crit. 4 draw, and yeah, we're on 6 draw. 6 draw, 6 crit. So I found myself, much like those additional 10Ks, I want to get through my deck essentially as fast as I can. I don't want to take too much away from the pressure department as I would want to, but these have, they've been really good. A lot better than I thought 6 draw was going to be. 8 crit, I don't know, I just don't find myself, like, I get value out of these defensively. these aren't so good defensively. So at least having an increased ratio of these for when we're on the defense, I get rewarded. You know, I'll take it where I can get it. So, but that's my current version of Kagero, guys. Please leave a comment down below. Check out tradingcardmint.com down below in the description. Tell me what you guys think about this deck, and hopefully for those of you that are testing this, you know, this is a good example to you. OCG's definitely got some really cool concepts going for this deck. So, alright guys, force you later. Ha ha ha.